And we are live. And we are live. And we are live. And we are live. And we we should be having notes and doing that
Wow,
because the
talking
Friday.
money.
That's what we should be doing. Anyway, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good afternoon to you and yours, and welcome to it, man. We call this it's a rep for Oral Popping Chats. My name is Vigan Kosi, and I am the host, and I'm not alone, making sure that we sound proper and we look amazing. It is Happy Paleng behind the scenes, giving us all things technical. And today I'm so excited, trying to contain my excitement because I'm like, trying to scream and get onto. Okay, I'm not gonna get onto the table, but I'm almost tempted to. I think you can see the gorgeousness on my left, your left. I'm left-handed, so everything is left. Yes, I'm joined by such gorgeousness. Let me just give you a brief background of who they are. I wanted to use the she/her pronouns, but I'm not sure if that's how you go. By. They're fine. All right. She is Nthabiseng Modjadji. Feel like I'm in the presence of royalty. Well, digital presence of royalty. Anyway, Nthabiseng Modjadji is a youth, right?
But let's not talk
Okay.
about that. We're not here to talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into it. All right. Nthabiseng Modjadji is a youth activist and a co-founder of Breaking Borders or Breaking Down Borders Africa Initiative. Modjadji is Rhodes University's graduate with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and Political and International Studies. Nthabiseng has also completed a public policy and analysis of African development program through the Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institution, now called Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs. Nthabiseng Modjadji is a program manager for Leaders Who Dare to Dream Foundation, through which she co-founded a Pan-African youth engagement and social justice program called Breaking Down Borders Africa Initiative in 2016. As a co-founder and program manager of Breaking Down the Border or Breaking Down Borders Africa, Modjadji is responsible for a program that has created linkage and ties with youth for over 60 states in Africa and the diaspora. Modjadji is a cohort of the Nasir, I hope I'm saying that right, Nasir Fellowship for International Leadership in 2021. World Youth Forum in 2019, and a Youth 360 program by the United Nations Allies of Civilization, and in partnership with the Search for Common Ground, and a recipient of the UNAOC's Youth Solidarity Fund and recipient of the Sunday World Unsung Heroes Awards 2021. Modjadji is recently initiated the creation and launched the BDBA, this is Breaking Down the Borders Toolkit series, a series of ebooks of youth allies and advocates addressing Afro-xenophobic racial injustice and the safeguarding of the rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. I don't have to. I don't think this 3-4 paragraphs do justice to things that you have done, but nonetheless, as collabo,
That's justice. It's a lot.
it
I was
does.
like, why did I edit that? I just forwarded it.
Yeah.
I was
All right. Well, I'll take your word for it. But I'm sure it sounds. I don't know how it sounds. Tell me, how does it feel when somebody reads something, or read something out that is about you, that speaks about you and the work that you've done.
It's weird. It's weird because it's like in my everyday life, I'm just waking up, doing my job, waking
Mhm.
up, connecting with my colleagues, my peers, my community. I am literally every day just doing my checklists, and
Yeah.
just going about my business. So it's hard when it's like put on paper that all those things are amounting to all of these other things. They're like,
Yeah.
so it's always just like, okay, who's that person over there? Because I just wake up every day,
Yeah.
with like my mission and my purpose in life, and I'm never thinking about all this other stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I'm always just like, I don't know. I should have just been like Nthabiseng Modjadji, like from Hamal, like I don't know.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. Well, for me, I think more still needs to. I'm a. I don't know if overachiever is the right word to describe myself, but I like it when somebody who is, you know, I want to say peer, but youth, and they are accomplishing so much. And you read about it, you see it, you hear about it, and you're like, oh my God, I so wish to be in that person's space. And I'm like, there is a lot that still needs, or that still this person can do. And I'm sitting here while reading or going through this, and I'm like, she's going to do something much more to add into the more that she already has. Is that pressure?
I hope. One can only hope. I mean, I'm getting to the point where, without revealing my age, slowly kind of,
Yeah.
moving away from like a lot of like the youth work, particularly if
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a position where I have kind of been appointed, or
Yeah.
I have a platform as a young person where I'm kind of moving away, because I'm just like, a lot of people created room and space for me to
Mm-hmm.
be that person to occupy those spaces. So I really am moving away. So I'm excited to see what's in the future, what more I can still do. I know for sure my passion is, and like my whole life, I can't imagine living in a world where I am not obsessed with social justice. I can't imagine
Yeah.
living in a world where like I'm just sitting with an injustice and I do nothing about it, and I'm not, it doesn't occupy me, and it doesn't dictate or influence how I live my life, how I engage with my community, the work that I do. So I don't know really what my future looks like, and I'm excited. I'm constantly excited because there's a lot of
Yeah.
things that always come, and I have always kind of prided myself and said that I want to be a collaborative person, right? So like I do really really well with people who are like, oh, I have this. How can you assist me? That like I love working with other people. I love building things. I love thinking of solutions. I like being around people who are solution driven, like people who want to make change, people who want to be direct and have honest conversations, and people who want to challenge the thinking and the narratives, and who want to kind of change our discourse and like move our society in our evolution. So I don't know what the future looks like. I know for sure
Yeah.
that like as I'm slowly getting to the part where I won't be in the youth bracket, I
Yeah.
am trying to see how much more I can be a mentor.
Mm-hmm.
That I know for sure. I know for sure I'm looking at how much more I can be with other young Black women who I can assist with my network, with my skills, with my knowledge, with anything that I can give. So as I think about the future, and I think that really what the question was around was like looking at what I've done, what does the future look like? My future for me, I don't know exactly, but I know I want to be working in a space that empowers young Black women, because I know I needed that. I know there's so many young girls out there, Black girls, who are just dynamic and just
Yeah.
need platforms. And they're already changing the world in the little spaces they occupy. So if I can be a support in some way in that space, that's like a dream for me.
I got you. Listen, I just went in with the questions and I didn't even ask how you're doing. I didn't appreciate you. Thank you so much. Let me just do that now. Hope you do well. You're doing amazing. You're okay. She'll let us know how she's doing. But
Yeah.
that's my guest. She's my guest this afternoon. Please send her questions. And quite on some of the responses that you gave, touched on young people. So the topic is focusing on African youth in changing or becoming change agents. And I think she's the right person to really dissect this topic. And I am not going to ask when are you exiting the youth bracket. Sort of, but yeah, I really want to, I really want your insights and your pearls, as you gear up to do other things. But like I said, be looking for questions and to engage in this conversation and look at African youth as change agents. When you look at the work that you have done, I don't want to say dated from when, but from however long you could think. do you see yourself as a change agent, and perhaps maybe also dip into the current work that you're doing with breaking down the borders? Do you see the change happening, or rather, first, do you see yourself as a change agent?
I do. I do.
Yeah.
I do. And I think that all of us have it in us. And I think all of us, in some way, small, big
Mm-hmm.
way, play a role in change and, whether it is negative or positive, right? So
Yeah.
you could, in your like, you have a lot of young people who are despondent, who are not really participating in anything, right? And even in their lack of participation, they are changing the world as we see it. And
Yeah.
so I think in any kind of space, in any way, I definitely do see myself as one, because I've always really been a self-starter, and I've been a person who doesn't necessarily need a lot of affirmation. If I believe something to be true, I definitely consider myself somebody who likes to listen to everybody's opinion. Like, I want to know different thoughts and opinions, but I will really stick to mine if I believe in it, and I will really stick to it with my entire being. Like, I'll fight for my beliefs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think so. And I think I'm very proud of the work that, myself and my team has done over the past couple of years. um we always say, like, it's tough in the like the civic space, because there's just, like, the issues around funding, there's issues around, like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot dealing with, around, and also on a personal level, sometimes the challenges you're dealing with, or some of the topics and lived experiences you're hearing about you when you leave, somebody has, like, kind of not dumped, but, like, told you now their life story and their challenges, and now you're not,
Yeah.
there's no space for the counseling, and
Mm-hmm.
where are you
Mm-hmm.
dumping all of this stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot, dealing with a lot
Got
of
you.
things. Yeah, a lot of challenges. But I do think at the end of the day, I do believe that I'm a change maker and a change starter, because I started something. I stick to my beliefs. Together, or young Black women to come together, to collaborate, to engage, to share their lived experiences, to literally find each other and change the world. And I will always want to be a peer amongst other women. And so yeah, I think so. I think I'll own it. I
Yeah.
think I'll
Own
own
it.
it.
You are a change agent. I want us to talk about, because I think in now your response, in you being a change agent, you're touching on igniting that collaborative effort, that collaborative relationship, going around finding people that really want to be part of the change. Would my assumption then be correct? And I think I also read it on your bio about that being much great work, or some parts of the work that you do with breaking down the borders.
Yeah. So collaboration for us is like
Mhm.
the same, like at the core of what we do. Like,
Yeah.
we call it co-creation. So in everything that we do, there's not a single project that we have done that we have not called on our peers to collaborate with us on. We never do a single thing by ourselves, because we can't say we are a youth platform and we're going to talk about the intersecting issues that affect young people if we're not bringing young people across the board, across the
Hmm.
spectrum, into those discussions. Like, we can't, there's that phrase, nothing about us without us. Like, we can't
Yeah.
be creating platforms for young people without young people coming on and participating. So in every single project that we've done, from our youth summits, we will from the beginning put out the agenda, we'll put out the theme, we'll be like, what do you think this theme should be? We've had like workshops where we'll workshop our panel discussions and everything that we do. Our current project is around creating toolkits. They're ebooks, they're online, they're available to anybody who has access to the internet. We're trying to find partners that can help us make sure these toolkits are more accessible, because we know about the digital divide and everything, and we know for sure that we have this really good tool that young people can use who want to be activists, who want to be promoters and defenders of human rights, but don't have tools. They sometimes don't have the languaging to begin to have these. They can't describe the things that they see and want to challenge and all of these things. So we have these toolkits that have all sorts of skills, like how do you have a discussion with your parents around xenophobia? How do you have a discussion with your peers at school about protecting the rights of migrants and immigrants and refugee seekers? Because we know that activism really comes from the heart. You just know from like when you're in a space that this is injustice or this is wrong, like the another person should do. And like sometimes you just don't have the tool or the language or the anything to challenge or change that space. So even with our toolkits, we opened it up. We're like, we want to create these books and we want to have all of these tools inside for young people who want to be human rights advocates and come on board. So we literally were having people connecting from Tanzania coming in and people from Uganda across the continent coming in and giving in the tools they know, their lived experience, because we never do anything alone. And we know that injustice anyway, I mean, injustice anyway is injustice everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we always have to be collaborative in the work that we do. So we really try to make sure that we bring as many people and voices on board in all the work that we do.
I got you. You know, now you speak about all these countries, and I think in putting together, somebody might, be sitting wherever and listening to the conversation and think, putting a toolkit is so easy. And you count all these, and you count all these countries in Africa that you need to then, can I say, dare collaborate or, consult to say, come together. What is your view? What do you share? How do you see this? What's your perspective? Are borders then not, limitation in fully exploring those opportunities? Where you have somebody who is in South Africa and, maybe identifies as queer or identifies differently with your views but still wants to collaborate with somebody who is in Uganda. But, there's a border or several borders before you get to Uganda. Don't you find borders as limitation in terms of exploring those opportunities?
Not necessarily. I think what we've found, and from my experience, is that injustice is injustice anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And particularly with these toolkits that we've done, we realized that, I mean, I don't even think we even had to realize it. It was like racial injustice is racial injustice anyway. And the things that inform it, like discrimination, bias, stereotyping, all of these things across the board. You could be having a discussion with any African in any part of the world, not just in South Africa, on the continent, and they will understand Afrophobia. They will get it easy, right? So I think a lot of the topics and like the themes that we have around injustice and discrimination and inequality and bias, those things are common, are experienced globally at different levels, in different spaces. We could be talking about feminism and women's rights. We could be talking about, climate change and its impact. For example, in climate change, its impact on Africa, we contribute the least to climate change, but it's impacting us as one of the most, right? So we could be speaking about inequality and bias and all of these things on any level. And that's what I think connects us. And that's the thing that I think breaks the borders, is that we realize that justice is justice, equity is equity, equality is equality, non-violence is not, in any space, safety, child rights, wherever you are. These are things that on a human level, we can all agree on.
I want to touch on the common social ills or the common social challenges that are faced by youth in Africa. And when I mean Africa, I'm really speaking it in terms of all the countries that you've touched, all the countries that you have put footprints in, to say what are those. But I think you touched on injustice, you touched on inequality, Afrophobia and all that. So would those be the most common? And would those then be the most that you get to deal with? I don't say on a daily basis, but in terms of bringing a discussion or dealing with them as you go.
Yeah. I think the thing that really does come out in a lot of when we're hosting our summits, right? So we host these annual youth summits and they've gone virtual now, which is great because it's really, the pandemic really made us go virtual more than anything, but it's been great because we've extended our reach. Like previously we would be hosting youth from like 13 African countries, 25 African countries, but now we're at like 60 different countries. We have Africans connecting from China, from Jamaica, from across the world who are plugging into our platform and they're giving their experience. So, like some of the primary topics or issues that are coming out ultimately is around youth participation, and it's around youth participation within the economy, jobs, small businesses. Young people are incredibly innovative. We know, like, we are driving the change that we see in this world, but there isn't a lot of support for young people, be it financial, being it technical, you name it. So really the big issue is around youth participation in the economy, within politics as well. You still have a lot of African countries that have age limits on how old you have to be before you can run. And we saw our peers in Nigeria running a campaign called Not Too Young to Run, right? So they were saying, as a young person, I should not have a limit or an age restriction stopping me from running from government. And they did it successfully. Like they got the law changed. So like we have a lot of issues around youth participation within the economy and within the political space. And then we have a lot of issues coming out around women's rights and gender-based violence and female mutual violation and all of these issues. So like child bride, so like a lot of issues around the girl child and women across the continent. We know, especially, and we all know as well that it's not with women, it's not just the kind of the social issues, there's also the economic issues. African women are hustlers, are working, are on the ground, but there is no support. We were looking at the intercontinental trade, for example, and we see that Black women, especially in like Central Africa, East Africa, are actually crossing the borders more than anybody else in trade. But there is no support, there's no recognition, but they are actually the ones who are actually pushing this continental trade, but at a very low, unorganized level. But they are actually the ones who are the leaders in the space. And we have a lot to learn about how this woman is traveling between Uganda and Rwanda, working every day, like selling, going between the two countries, We have here in South Africa, we have a lot of women going between Lesotho and South Africa, bringing clothes and selling all sorts of, so like we have a lot of issues around like just women's rights and women's empowerment and women's economic access. So for me, that would really be like the two key areas that young people are really worried about, like the participation, be it economic and financial, and as well as women's rights.
Yeah. And I think it affects us all, like you said. So it being common, it affects really everyone, not only women, but everyone who then participates in that space and field. Well, if you just joined us, we call this is a rep. I'm excited. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I am joined by of Breaking Down Borders Africa Initiative and program manager at Leaders Who Dare to Dream Foundation. And Nthabiseng Modjadji is my guest. Send through your questions. What do you have to say when it comes to African young people, participating in the economy or in the economic climate really changing? All these, say, narratives that we are currently experiencing. What kind of participation are you adding in that conversation? You can send through your questions right here on the Wrong Popin's Facebook page. That's where we live also on our Twitter space. It is at @in_health with the hashtag it's a grab. You can tag myself, it's Langosi, and most definitely I'm seeing a bit of love. Okay, little hearts coming up on my screen. And I think it's for you, Nthabi. It's not for me. They see me every day.
Oh,
Well, not, but they
thank you.
see me
I can't
a lot.
see that. So like, thank you guys.
Yeah. Yes. The love is going to Nthabi. So most definitely send them through. Send through also questions for this particular conversation. Now, Nthabi, it's quite interesting the kind of work that you do. I want to talk about then sort of how progressive do you think we could have been, say, given because I think you interact with a lot of us across the continent. If we're given the resources as young people, how progressive do you think we could be? I think at the beginning of the conversation you spoke about, challenging the the facial expressions to me a lot. Do you have a lot to say on this response? So you spoke about then us changing the thinking, or young people who change the thinking. So if we were given the right resources, but if we were given resources, how progressive could have we? How progressive could we have been in changing as young people?
Oh my God. Like, I think that is like my favorite question, because I think the fact that, yeah, like it really is. I love the question, because people are like, if young people don't have the challenges that they have, and if young people had the resources, and we advocate for those things, like we advocate for young people to have resources and to have education and to have like all the things that we need to be just the driven and really dynamic people that we are. But I always say that look at what we are able to achieve even with the challenges that we have. Look at what young people are, change that young people are bringing already, like the movements that young people lead, the spaces that we occupy and change. So like I know for sure, if we had more that we are all continuing to advocate for and speak up for and work towards, I don't think I need to say more, because I think just look at just how innovative young people are. Like I meet people who are creating the craziest apps and they have the best ideas, and I'm like mind blown, and I'm like, what? And that's already with the limited resources. So for me, I know for sure, if we had it all in the world that we envision, I think there would be no stopping African youth. And I think we're already changing the world in this, in like in the capacity that we can be able to. But I think we'd be unstoppable.
Most
For sure.
definitely, most definitely. Yeah, I agree with you, and I think and I'll say it's a stereotype that our African youth or African people, are not as creative or not as innovative or are not as, and we are
Yeah.
always painted, you know, from the begging perspective, from I'm begging, I'm asking, I can't create on my own, give me, So it's quite interesting that even with little resources, and I think you are better traveled than I am to see that yes, we are limited in resources, but most definitely we become creative.
Yes.
Let's isn't it then our education? I'm speaking specifically for South Africa. Isn't then our
Yeah.
education system more or pushing there be able to theorize, or it's pushing the theory envelope as opposed to the practical, more creative, more cultivating, more innovative theory. So it's like when you go to school, you come back, you just know the theory, you don't know the practical.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that our education system should be doing more. And I think that our government should be doing more at all levels, like just making sure that certain things go all the way, not like there's a trickle down, but like not a trickle down, but I wish certain things would go all the way into like our family homes and encourage certain messaging at all levels, at school level, at home level. I think we all have a part in changing narratives, and we all have a part in encouraging African excellence and telling the right stories and encouraging us to be smart and innovative and not limiting ourselves in our thinking and being broad-minded. And I think that definitely our education system needs to do more. I think we don't have to even be arguing back and forth. Like, there is research, there are a lot of people who are putting in a lot of work to create the knowledge, to be like, guys, this is the direction we should be going into, these are the discussions we should be having, and this is the kind of knowledge we should be imparting into our young people, and this is the kind of room for growth and innovation, and that we should be. So I think definitely, for sure, I think that, I mean, when I was in high school, for example, the idea of activism, let's just start there. No one prepared me for that. You get to, or even political participation. I think the only place where I really learned that you could participate in politics, I thought politics, you have to be like the 60-year-old person. Like, I was just like, and then I also went to a school where there were a lot of girls. It was an all-girls school whose parents were like politicians, and some of them would be like, where were you when our dads, where were your parents when our parents were like? And I was like, yeah, it's okay. So I was like, sorry. Where were my parents? I don't know. I was on board. But like, when I got to university, that's when I realized, oh my God, I can actually join a society and become political. Like, I didn't know. But so like, there's so many like technical skills that our education system doesn't provide us from the beginning, or even let us know exist. So I think there's a lot more that we can do, and I think that it's not just on the school. I think it's across the board. We all have a responsibility to play.
I got that. When you talk about the elderly being the ones that are sort of like saturating the political playing field, it has always been like that. Even for me, when I was young, I was like, and people will say, yeah, but Mina, my parent is a what, Mina, and I'm like, okay. And when you get to a certain age, or when being exposed to university and certain peers, you get to understand that, oh, actually, you can participate at this, you can start now, and gradually grow in this. Yeah, you don't have to really wait for you are 50.
Exactly. And without information, you can't do anything. If you're not aware of stuff, you don't know aware that this thing exists, that you can participate in this way. Can't. And that's why we're really looking, because South Africa is celebrating its 30-year democracy in like 2 years' time. So we're looking at really in celebrating our democracy and having a really critical look at it. We're really going to be focusing around local government and also more accessible channels for young people to participate in politics, because I'm just like, I honestly did not know until I wasn't even first year. I was probably in second year, where like I was invited to join a political party on campus, and I was like, you guys operate on campuses? I
didn't know.
And I was just like, what? And then I took an interest, obviously. So I went to the different, because I like to see everything. I went to all the clubs, all of them, and I was just like, I know that. But otherwise, if you don't have that platform, so imagine if you're a young person and you actually don't have access to a higher learning institution for whatever circumstances, how else are you going to be participating in politics outside of going to vote every 4 years? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know that there are other channels. You don't know that at a local level, you could be actually going to those council meetings. You're allowed to actually go to a council meeting and wait your turn and stand up and speak to your councillors directly in your face. A lot of young people actually don't know that. They don't.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I think it would be the same, Nthabi, with every other country where, just because we are, we are, I don't want to say discriminated, but there's kind of red taping or gatekeeping in terms of young people and the politics, or young people and understanding what goes on in the purse of the state, young people and so there always is that gap, and I think we're trying to fill it every time. And some of us get to be, I don't say lucky, but some of us get to be more revolutionary or more exposed to that more than others. And I think there are only a selected few. But I'm looking at my screen and I'm seeing love again. Luyanda Mzimela is just giving us, I'm going to count the hearts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 hearts. I'm going to take one and give you 3 because,
Thank you.
Like and some few comments also coming in. Another comment is collaboration. You just said collaboration. And I think I really agree with you when it comes to collaborations. And speaking of collaborations, I want to talk about collaborations taking into consideration the barriers that are present by borders, but you just said that borders really don't exist because you have women who are cross-bordering and really experiencing both sides of Africa, or of their place that they are in terms of geography and all that, and so collaboration taking into consideration the presence of borders, the presence of a language, and also cultural differences. You've been around, you've hosted all these 60 plus countries with young people who are from Africa and are just all over the globe. It does that then it does exist where my culture is a hindrance from understanding who Nthabi is and how I can collaborate with them and all sorts of other barriers that could come to play in that regard.
Yeah, of course. Of course, xenophobia, tribalism, all of the isms and the phobias, they exist and they're real. And I don't think we should be saying we live in this perfect continent where, we're like Wakanda, as Africans, you know what I mean? Like the issues, they really do exist. Like the issues are like issues that come around discrimination and bias and not wanting to, othering people, basically othering people and not wanting to engage. Those genuinely exist. But I do think that from our travels, what we've seen and like from our work that we've done across the continent is that like Africans are literally on the move. You will find we have our diasporas within our countries across the continent, right? So like we have this image where like I think sometimes in South Africa we think like the Ugandans are staying in Uganda. Like East Africans travel across that region like nobody's business.
Yeah.
Like, West Africans the same. Like in the north, like I was in Egypt and I was meeting people from Sudan, I was meeting people from Libya, so Africans generally, we are people who migrate. We've been since this beginning of time, we've always been a society or civilization that is on the move. So I don't necessarily think that language and borders and all of these things are issues outside of xenophobia, outside of othering other people, outside of discrimination, outside of the history of colonization. We should never forget that those borders were not, us as Africans, we didn't draw them. They still exist. There are still implications for them. There are still, so many francophone countries that, France still controls their treasuries, that obviously will hinder. For example, if I, as a South African, or if South Africa as a country wants to trade with Senegal, for example, which is part of the francophone countries, there will be implications because obviously the French government, they controlling their treasuries, they have their bilateral, like they could, so like it's not as easy. They have influence on the things that happen in those countries, external influences that impact how we engage as African countries, not even some, as all of us, we engage as African countries. So I think that issues are not necessarily the fact that we speak different languages, or we are from different places, or some of us look different. Like the tallest people I've ever met were from Sudan. I was just like, what is happening? I've never felt like I was this small when like I was like,
Yeah.
what is happening? But also for me, like the Sudanese are the most beautiful people on Africa. Like for me, I'm just like, yeah, people are like, have you met Ethiopian people? South African women are the most beautiful. Like people go and I'm like, listen, the Sudanese
You,
win
the
it,
Sudanese.
right?
Yeah.
But like, for me, I just feel like the language, the fact that we look different, we're from different places, those things are not necessarily the hindrances. The issues
Mhm.
are around the external forces, they're around issues around discrimination, social stereotyping, bias, like just othering each other. And those things are the things, those social injustices and those discriminations are the things that really are the borders that
Mm,
separate us.
mm. I got you. Now you touched on a lot, and I want to hear your view because I have two more questions before I let you go. Just by the way, I don't know if you can tell, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. I want us to talk
Me
about
too.
because I'm thoroughly enjoying this. Morgan Freeman was doing an interview, and somebody then asked them. They were a Caucasian anchor said to Morgan, how do we stop racism, or how do we deal with racism? Something to that effect. And Morgan said, we need to stop to bring it up. We need to stop. You need to stop calling me black. I need to stop. You need to stop calling me a black man. I need to stop calling you a white man. And with that, then that's how I know, right? And I was like, how? Oh, okay. That is a very interesting fact. But I think I can see this with you. Do you think again? You touched on the isms and the
Yes.
the xenophobia and Afrophobia and all that. Do you think if we stop saying they are South Africans, just and my sort of
Labeling.
like question point, yeah, labeling because it's othering, right? They are
Yes.
Zimbabweans, they are Nigerians, they are Ugandans, they are all these ends and all that. Wouldn't that then stop us or stop this xenophobic, Afrophobia, and all that, so that such beautiful collaborations that you have with all these countries can even be, I don't know, more amplified to some extent.
Let me tell you something, and I will tell it to anybody, anyway, in any space, wherever. Okay, I am a black woman,
Yeah.
and I will never not say I am a black woman because that, and like whether I like it or not, that is how the world engages with me.
Mhm.
I, I can say I don't want, like, people who are like, no, I'm colorblind. I'm like, I know I'm black because the world treats me very black. The world treats me like I am black. Let me tell you. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
even have to go into our lived experiences to just break
Mm-mm.
down because I feel like as well as a black person that the
Mhm.
world treats like you are black,
Black. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily, and when we're doing our toolkits, because one of them is around racial injustice, right? So
Mhm.
we had this topic, and then we actually had somebody who's like a psychologist at like very high level come in, like just speak about how the brain works and all of that stuff. And the brain that she talked about, like our brain categorizes things, like says, okay, this is a phone,
Mm.
this is a da 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 da. But we as a
Mhm.
society are the ones that dictate how the value of that thing. So somebody can look at their iPhone and be like 15 thou, and look at their Samsung and
And
be like 5 thou. Do you understand?
got you. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
I see.
as humans, our brains, we can't not categorize. Our brain puts things into categories, puts into things into space, and but we as a society dictate how we engage with all of these labels. We as a society dictate the value that we put on the labels. We dictate everything that has to do with our engagement and our interaction with every single label or thing that we label, right? So I don't necessarily have a problem with saying I'm a Black woman. I don't necessarily have to say the next person is white or whatever, unless that community comes together and says, we as a community want to not be called white anymore or want to be called purple, whatever. But
Got you.
looking at the world as it is right now, I can tell you I'm a Black woman because I can't go through an airport without being pulled aside. Okay. And I can tell you there are a lot of white people who have gone through airports, who probably travel more than I could even imagine. Never. I get pulled for the drug tests. I get pulled for my bag searched. I get harassed even here in South Africa, not just abroad. The last time I traveled, my bag was like, what is it? They like pinpoint you, whatever, red flagged. Red flagged. I brought my bag. I'm unpacking my bag. Like, I literally had to unpack my entire content of my bag in front of these police officers. Just because I literally had been to Egypt for like a month, and I was just like, do you know how problematic what you're saying is? They were like,
Yeah.
when Black girls travel to Arabic countries, they're going for prostitution, drug trade, da 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 da. So I was just like, I literally was there on a presidential program. I was like, the president of Egypt invited me. But they were still like going through because they were just like, they were like, how long were you in Egypt? A month? What were you doing in the Arab world? And I was like, first of all, yes, it's an Arabic country, but I was still on the continent. I was still here in Africa. Like,
Yeah.
and they were just like,
Yeah.
no, we know you Black girls. And like it's stuff like that where you stereotype and it's dangerous. It's
Very.
dangerous. You can't do that. So
Very.
yeah, I hope I haven't gone off track. But part of the
No.
story is that I'm a Black woman and Morgan Freeman is a Black man.
Got you. And okay. I don't want to dip any further. I think I got what I needed from that question. Let's touch on impact of change. We need to see the impact that change is making. We need to be aware of it. We need to. I think then when we see it, then we are able to measure the kind of work that has been put in. Yeah. When you look at the world, or rather, not the world, the work that Breaking Down Borders Africa initiative has done, the impact of the work, or the impact of change, or rather, the impact of the work hasn't brought change. I think that's where I wanted to go with it.
Yeah.
You look at what you guys have done, and you probably gauge it. Do you see the impact? Do you see the change? Has the change been done? When you go to sleep at night, you're like, I did that.
I did that. I, to be honest, think that Breaking Down Borders still has a lot of work to do. I don't think that we have like scratched the surface. And that's why I'm always saying that like you come into an organization. Obviously, so like you explained, Breaking Down Borders is a program within like a broader organization, right? So it's part of the Leaders Who Dare to Dream Foundation, and they do a lot of work around youth. They have like youth art activism programs, like they run ballet programs and drama in communities that don't have access to arts education. And then we have Breaking Down Borders. So like there's a lot of different programs. So at Breaking Down Borders, like I always said, like I came in and we launched this thing and we can only take it so far. That's why I'm so keen to be like, we brought it here. Let's bring in other young people to see how far they can take this program. Let's bring in new ideas. Let's bring in new thoughts. And like, let's see where hand it over. I've never said, as much as I founded Breaking Down Borders or co-founded it, that I owned it. It's not mine to own. It's a youth platform. Young people take it. I've always said it's a collaborative space. on our website, anywhere we go, you can text me, you can email me, if you have a project and you're like, can break it down, can we collaborate, can we work together, let's do it. I'm like, sure, I'll bring whatever resources I have, you, let's work together. It's always been that platform. So I think when I go to bed at night and I think about our impact and to be like, we did something, I think if you look at a lot of our previous beneficiaries and people who collaborated with us, a lot of them have gone on to create their own platforms. A lot of them have gone on to create their own initiatives. A lot of them have gone on to create their own tools and collaborate. Like for me, it's always that one person that comes back and says, "Hey, I work for so and so and so and so company. I attended one of your summits, and now I made sure our company creates a CSI program that focuses on empowering the girl child or focuses on whatever it is." So it's always those stories where somebody comes back and said, I attended one of your programs, I attended one of your your summits, or I read your toolkit, and that I feel like, okay, we're doing something. But I think there's still a lot more to do. And I think particularly with our current program that's around xenophobia and Afrophobia, and the fact that we're based in South Africa and we know the issues and we know what's happening on the ground there, I don't think we have enough impact. I think we have a tool that can be taken into schools, that should be taken into homes, that is going to be teaching about discrimination and injustice across the board. Like some of the themes go into any kind of ism and social injustice across the spectrum, right? So for me, I think we could do more. We're always looking for partners. If anybody's listening out there, like our website, breakingdownborders.com, you can go and you'll see the toolkits. If there's any way you can help us take that tool that we have online into people's homes and into young people's cell phones and into young people, like, let's work on it. Let's get it out there. I think we do amazing collaborative work, but some of our challenge really is around getting it at like a grassroots level, which
I got you.
I think we should be focusing as we go forward.
I got you. Happy Paling. happy. Happy does everything here. Comments. Such incredible spaces, or such an incredible space. I can testify to that. I'm one of the first participants of the initial BDBA summit, and goes there and tags you. So that would, lead me to my final question, which is highlights. Would this or such feedback, or any other thing that you can think of, what would be the highlights of the work that you've done so far?
I think our first summit, because I think just on just like on a human kind of level, as a person, if you have an intention to start something, I don't care what it is. Like, this is not just like in terms of activism. If you're anybody on earth and you have an intention to start something and you actually just go ahead and do it, like my dad always used to say, like the thing about the journey of 1,000 miles, it starts with one step. He always used to say that, particularly to my oldest brother. So like, we always kind of remember that it's literally just that first step that really unfolds the rest of the journey. So I think particularly our first summit, which was in 2017, and Happy attended, and it was great because what we did is, before we started that summit, we went on an Africa tour. We went to 10 African countries, and we were working with other youth organizations, and we're kind of doing a case study to see, like, in that country, what are young people doing to change the spaces they occupy. I wanted to see, what does youth activism look like in our lifetime. So that was really the theme. We wanted to see, like, what does youth activism look in Uganda, in Senegal, in Zimbabwe, in Kenya. We went across, right? We wanted to see, and as we were traveling, we were meeting a Kunle in Nigeria who were like, I wish Kunle would meet like Zbu in South Africa. How can we connect now? Like they were like both art space, like that kind of thing. So we're meeting so many people who were like, how can we connect this one and this one? How can we connect this one and this one? And then so we're like, let's host a summit and like get all of these people in the same spaces so they can network and like learn from each other and we can learn from them. And so the first summit, I think, really was one of the big highlights. And then I think really our current series of toolkits that we've created around Afrophobia, xenophobia, racial injustice, and protecting the rights of migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. I am very, very excited about the toolkit just because of like the people who came from so many different places, from so many different backgrounds, with so many different skills and tools, who came together to create this thing to empower other young people. Because we're like, okay, I'm in my space, in my silo, and I know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just sitting in my corner, and you have somebody else also there who's in their silo. So, like, just to create a space where we were working and creating something for other young people, I loved it. And the books are living documents, so it's not closed off. So, at any time, if you have anything you would want to put into the book, you can just send it and we add it. Obviously, we'll vet it and like we'll share it with like experts and see, but like we still have people who are sending us like animations to put in the videos. They're like, oh, I saw this on YouTube that really explains racism for children, and we put it in the toolkit. So like it's not a book that's like ever gonna be finished. It's constantly going to be updated. It's constantly going to have new collaborators and new contributors. So I'm very excited. That's for me, it's one of the big highlights.
Youth activist, co-founder of Breaking Down Borders Africa Initiative, program manager at Leaders Who Dare to Dream Foundation, Nthabiseng Modjadji. I have thoroughly, feel like I should emphasize, thoroughly enjoyed this. I have thoroughly enjoyed this engagement. Listen, we see the work that you do. We know what you do. It's amazing. Don't stop today. Don't stop tomorrow. If we have other things, give it to someone. Let it have. Like we know. Like it's important what you do. I think we need to validate that it's important what you do, and it really is impacting a lot of people, not only in South Africa but across Africa and diaspora. Thank you so much for being a change agent, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this engagement. Invite us to other things that you guys are doing. I would really love to.
Listen,
we are filled. Please invite us. As here at Pop In, 100% youth. Well, not 100%, 98% youth, and yeah, we would really love to participate in such spaces and really engage and exchange with other young people who are doing amazing things across the continent. So thank you so much, man, for adding on to the conversation. I really have appreciated your time, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you.
Same. Thank you so much. Like, this is how I want to spend all my Friday afternoons, for real. Like, this is how to spend a Friday afternoon. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it's important for us to actually, you're right, to talk. Because once we stop talking, we're going to have a problem. So we need to continue talking. And I really appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you before you go, where can people engage further? Especially I'm interested in the toolkits. Where are we getting the toolkits? Which platform? How do we share them? Let us know.
Yes. So the toolkit is on breakingdownborders.com. If you go there, all 3 toolkits are available. They're downloadable. They're all there. And then if you want to just see the other work that we do as an organization, on Twitter and Facebook, we're at BDB_Africa, and on Facebook, we're at Breaking Down Borders Africa.
Okay. Thank you so much. I don't want to say anything further. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm enjoying this a lot. And yes, man, we'll definitely be in the lookout for that, and we'll engage further, especially when with the toolkits. I'm quite interested to find out what they do about, and I cannot wait to get my hands on them and read.
Thank you.
So yeah, man, thank you
Also,
so much.
I'm gonna add that like the two kids are like done through like an intersectional lens. So people who were coming from different spaces. So we had LGBTQI activists, we have like economic youth activists coming in talking, because the thing about racism is that it's at different levels. And
Yeah.
the thing about like protecting the rights of migrants and refugees and asylum seekers, it's a lot. Like in South Africa, for example, we have a lot of refugees that from the LGBTQI space. We had to put that in the toolkit, like because a lot of people don't know that, you know. So like it's literally an intersectional platform, whatever. Babotle, we're in this together. Injustice to me is injustice to you. So if you can find anything in that book that you can contribute from the space that you occupy, please let us know. And that's really what I love about the toolkit, is that it's really it's intersectional and it's for everybody.
Most definitely. Nthabi, sending you love. Thank you so much. Happy Friday. And yeah, man. Thank you very much for
You
stopping
too.
by. I really appreciate your time. And if you just joined us,
Thank
well, it's 1 hour, 1 minute. It's going to be put up on all our social media platforms. You can catch my conversation with Nthabiseng Modjadji as we touched on the young African youth becoming change agent, and find out how she became a change agent, or the contribution that she made to this conversation. Absolutely amazing. You can engage us further on our social media platforms. And don't forget, go to Breaking Down Borders. Yes, Breaking Down Borders Africa. .com. That is the website. And also on their social media platforms, we'll tag them and go there, explore the website, and download the toolkits and read them. Quite interesting. I cannot wait. It's like I can jump off now and go. Like, I want to do that now. Let's do that. Otherwise, I'm catching you on Monday. We're in Cape Town. Are we in Cape Town? Technical director, technical. Look at the director. Producer, hey, are we in Cape Town on Monday? I think we are in Cape Town. We are visiting gender dynamics. Please make sure that you also look out for Technical Monday. We are doing something there, but in Cape Town. But nonetheless, I've enjoyed my Friday. 1 hour done and dusted. Until then, I'm going to see you on Monday and Friday, hopefully having somebody as interesting as this platform has been, or this conversation has been with Nthabiseng. Until then, happy streaming. Bye. Bye, Nthabi.